Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG. I'm really excited about today's session because EDI is one of the most fundamental building blocks of a successful CPG brand. You, when you're in your very early days, might scrape by without it and be scrappy and you're watching every penny. But as you grow, there is no business on the planet that is scaling really fast nationally, getting all these accounts that is not using EDI at some point. And even if you didn't ever want to, the retailers will make you because retailers, they deal with a lot of different vendors. They need things to just be streamlined and automated. That's why they have distributors who consolidate all the deliveries for them because they can't be dealing with every single brand out there. And EDI is kind of like that for orders for them as well. But the good news is it's really good for you too. So as you start to scale, it basically is the thing that it's the electronic data interchange that just keeps all the orders automated, electronic, everything flows back and forth. Everyone's looking at the same truth. So I'm really excited for everybody to learn more about it today. And please hit us with all the questions. There are no dumb questions when it comes to EDI. No one knows anything at the beginning. So even if you feel like it's a basic one, probably everybody else has that question too. And so I really want to thank our friends from SPS Commerce who have been our partners for a really long, wonderful time. And really known as just, I think, the pioneers in this space. Definitely the probably most recognized brand in EDI. Work with all the major retailers, and it's really wonderful of you guys to join us here today and break it down for everybody. And I know we're going to get into lots of good stuff today, like what is EDI, how does it work, what are the components, how do you choose an EDI provider, and I'm also so excited that we've got Natalie Cordova from Purely Elizabeth here. Probably everyone has heard of Purely Elizabeth, even if they don't know about EDI. So we're going to hear from her as well. So with that, please light up the chat with all of your questions. And I'm going to pass it over to Morgan.
Thanks, Daniel. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole summary of EDI. I think we can pack it up and go home. But if you need a little bit more information, we're here to help give it to you. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. My name is Morgan Asplund. I'm a product manager on our product team here at SPS Commerce. I've been with SPS for 8 years in a number of different roles and always primarily working with our brands to really help automate their supply chains and strengthen those trading partner relationships. And I'm joined by Zach, and I'll let him intro himself.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Morgan. Nice to talk to everyone today. My name is Zach Machacek. I'm a director in our sales organization here at SPS. I've been with SPS for a little over 11 years now. And I've spent that whole time working with suppliers very similar to you. And, one of my favorite parts of this job is working with emerging brands and them navigating, okay, what does this mean for my business and how can I grow and scale? So super excited to be here today.
Love it. So a little bit of a preview of what we're going to get into today. Just a quick overview into who we are, why the heck we're talking to you about EDI, really lay the foundation into what is EDI, how does it work with your supply chain, all of your business operations, getting into a little bit of what capabilities you need to consider when you're thinking about investing in an EDI solution. And then we have a lot of great content that we'll go through, but it's always fantastic to hear from somebody who has been there, done that. So like Daniel mentioned, we have Natalie from Purely Elizabeth here to join us. And if you have any questions for her, feel free to type them in the chat. We would love to hear more about, what is her experience with EDI and how they've leveraged it to help scale and grow their business as they've evolved.
Great. Well, yeah. Well, who is SPS? Who's here talking to you today? Well, I think maybe the easiest way to describe SPS is really we're a company focused on enabling, transforming, and automating supply chain data across your supply chain. We've been in this space for 25 years. We're really the experts and the leaders in the space. And I think it's, the term, hey, we've done this a million times is something that gets thrown out there quite a bit, but we've actually done that. We have 1 million connections stood up across the industry. We have a global presence. We are headquartered here in Minneapolis, as I mentioned kind of at the start, but we've got offices across the globe. We're serving retailers, suppliers, logistics providers, We have over 3,500 different buying organizations pre-built in our network, and we serve all those different order management models, direct to consumer, distribution center, all the things that come with working in the retail landscape. And we have a ton of relationships across system providers. So think your QuickBooks, your ShipStations, up to NetSuite, Acumatica, Sin7, all the way up to SAP, Oracle, Microsoft World. So that's really who we are. But I think what you take away from this slide is, what does this mean for me as a business? And this really means that you can say yes to new business, to growth, to scale. And taking a little deeper look into those 3,500 buying organizations I mentioned, we're built out to all these different grocers, retailers, distributors, names you're very familiar with. And we'll get into a little bit of how all these guys want to speak a little bit different and have some different requirements. But what this means is that you can tap into a network that's pre-built, and it allows you to quickly harness those millions of connections that are already up there and wired for you. So that's just a little bit about who SPS is, and I'll send it over to Morgan to dig into a little bit more of really what is EDI.
Thanks, Zach. So let's get into it. Overview of what is EDI and why we don't need to be scared of those three little letters when you're looking at a vendor agreement. So we know that being a small business is really hard. You are probably wearing a lot of different hats. You are juggling a lot of different plates, trying to run things as smoothly, efficiently as possible and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. And the reality is that as you enter more sales channels, as you gain more customers, and maybe you bring in like a warehouse 3PL or a co-packer, co-man, when you have more partners, there's just more communication involved. And so there's more chance for things to get lost along the way throughout that entire process. And so really, as Zach mentioned, that's where EDI comes in. It is that data exchange to make sure that everybody is informed about where things are all the way along the entire order cycle, so that we all have visibility throughout that entire supply chain process. So putting it kind of in your lens, in your perspective, we know that you're probably getting started selling through your e-commerce site directly to your customers, or maybe you're selling through a marketplace, and you're growing your business brick by brick, and you finally get your big shot. You've landed a retailer, which is a really exciting milestone. But that's only half the battle. So getting onto the shelf is definitely a lot of work. It's not easy, but then staying on the shelf is also something that requires persistence and making sure that you are a good partner to your customers. And so what does being a good partner to your customers look like? It really looks like making sure you're communicating in the right formats that they want to receive that information in, making sure that you're communicating with them in a timely manner. And so the reality is that you're probably doing a lot of this today, but just in a more, solo environment where you can control everything. You're probably selling direct to consumer, where you're gathering up your item attributes to list your product online. So me as a consumer can go to your website and understand exactly what I'm getting, really reducing the likelihood of any mismatch in expectations, reducing the likelihood that I'm going to return that item. So they're able to purchase your item from your e-commerce site. You receive that order. You get all of the customer insights of who's purchasing your product, really being able to narrow in into who your ICP is, pivot your business strategy to have the right target personas, and all of that's data that's coming in. But then you also need to let your customers know about, okay, you purchase a product from me. When can I expect to receive that product? Oh, and I need to be able to decrement the inventory that I have on hand so that I'm not reflecting anything that I actually don't have on hand to fulfill for you. So that's kind of what your world looks like today. But as you enter your B2B relationships, as you scale into retail, it gets a little bit more complicated. And not to say that EDI is complicated, but supply chain can be complicated as you have more partners involved, and all of these partners require different things. So as we talked about, every single retailer distributor that you work with is going to require different information. And unfortunately for us, retailers don't really care if they're an easy partner to work with. That kind of falls on the brand as us to be good stewards of that relationship, showing that we're invested and we're able to meet their requirements. And so you landed your first retailer, maybe it's Target. Hooray, we're finally on the shelf. I am up to speed on their vendor agreement of when they need acknowledgments sent back to them to confirm, yes, I can fulfill your order, or no, I can't fulfill that order. There's timeliness requirements with that. There might be requirements of where to put the label on the box. So Target might require that it's on the short side of the carton, 3 inches from the left, but Walmart's going to require something different. And so as you know, maybe you get into your first retailer or distributor and you're like, great, I have this down. But then you move into the next one and you kind of have to start all over again because they have an entirely different way of doing business. And so when you think about it, retailers are also constantly trying to evolve. They're constantly looking at their supply chains. They're constantly looking at what can I do more efficiently to help get product on the shelf more quickly and get the right product that my customers need at the right time. And so what does that mean for us as a brand? It means that they're constantly making changes. So we see in our network tens of thousands of changes annually, anything from a retailer standing up a new distribution center. So you have a new ship to location that you need to know about and manage. Maybe they're actually changing where that label needs to go. Maybe they're changing how high you can stack your pallets. There's all of these different nuances that go into making sure that you understand what they're asking, you're able to deliver on it, and you're a good partner in all of that. And so when you're doing this manually, it can kind of be really difficult and not easily able to scale. And so that's where EDI really comes in. So if you think about that B2B order cycle, EDI lives throughout that entire process. So initially you land with your retailer or distributor. You need to be able to communicate with them what your item attributes are, how much inventory that you have on hand, so that they're able to send you a purchase order that reflects the item data that resonates with you. So let's say you've sent that item information, you've let them know how much inventory you have on hand, your buyer sends you a purchase order. They're then probably going to expect that you send back a purchase order acknowledgement. And this is a really critical part of that entire order cycle because it helps to communicate to the buyer, to that trading partner, that yes, you can fulfill that order, or no, you can't, or maybe I can partially fulfill it. And so this is a really critical step to make sure that everybody's informed about where product is, when it's going to arrive. And then that trading partner can make decisions about, okay, great, send me the 75% of that order now. I can wait on that 25%, or maybe it's like a holiday item and they say, nope, I need it here ASAP. We're going to cancel that 25%. So just making sure that we're able to seamlessly communicate with one another is really what it comes down to. So now that you've confirmed that you can fulfill that order, you need to let them know how you're going to ship it. So you need to indicate how the items were packed, how many pallets you might be sending, etc., and make sure that that shipping notice matches the labels that you put on your cartons or your pallets. And so that really helps to ensure that when that buying org, your retailer or distributor, receives that product at their distribution center or at their stores, they're able to seamlessly receive that. So they're going to make sure that that ship notice and that label match. And if they do, you're able to get that product onto the shelf much more quickly. And so the goal is that everything is more efficient. You're getting your product on the shelf more quickly, and hopefully it's selling out more quickly and your buyers reordering. And then that cycle kind of comes all the way through.
Morgan, just a question to jump in with. So this is in the instance where you would be delivering directly to a retailer, which is probably the goal longer term for a lot of brands as they grow and the retailers are open to that. Most of us in the earlier stages, first years of a brand, are going to be working through a distributor for a lot of these accounts. So how does it work because I know like when you're applying to a lot of these big retailers who go through distributors anyways, a lot of them are still asking you, are you EDI compliant? Because I think then when they place their orders, to UNFI, KeHE, whoever, they're probably doing that through EDI as well, which then flows into the distributor. And then the distributor is going to place their order to you also through EDI. Is that kind of like how it works?
Yep, exactly. You nailed it. So same exact scenario, just applied to distribution instead of a traditional retailer.
Okay, perfect. So the distributors are big fans of it also because it will.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep. We recently helped KeHE onboard all of their suppliers. So making sure that we coached all of their suppliers through how to do EDI, how to be EDI compliant, how to meet KeHE's requirements.
Awesome. And everybody out there, please drop questions in because I know this stuff can be a little confusing, even if you feel like it's a basic question. Have at it. All right.
There's a lot of jargon involved, and I try as much as possible not to speak the jargon, but please clarify if needed. So speaking of engaging with the chat, we wanted to play a little game, Two Truths and a Lie. So I'm sure most of you are familiar, but drop in the chat which of these statements you think is a lie. So do you think that the lie is that EDI helps brands of any size automate order processing with retail and distribution partners? Do you think that it's only large companies with really big supply chains should use EDI because it requires a really big upfront investment in customer software? Or do you think that it's number 3, cloud-based automation solutions make it possible for you to start small and scale as your business grows? I see we have a lot of responses coming in. I'll give it just another second. Daniel, do you have any guesses?
Well, I threw in numero dos in the chat just to be a little different because everyone else seems to know the answers too. So not everyone here is a novice. People are wise to this one.
There you go. I love it. So
I also have to tell you that there is like a revolt happening in the chat where I think everyone's really interested in this and they're all asking, how much does it cost? So we might have to sneak preview that for everybody. I've seen it come up a couple times already.
There you go. Well, you guys are jumping ahead. I love it. We will get to pricing, but yes, if you said statement number 2 is the lie, you would be correct. So it is not a big investment up front. We support companies all the way from emerging brands that are just getting started all the way through to enterprise solutions. And EDI really helps to meet you to what you need out of the solution. So as your business grows and scales, there's going to be additional considerations and investments that you can make along the way. But at the beginning, it is definitely obtainable for you to get into.
All right. I'm going to surface a question up for everybody. So somebody has just asked, we're working on our first regional chain. Is it going to be 100% a requirement or does it depend retailer to retailer?
Yeah, so I can take the Zach, jump in if you have anything. It depends retailer to retailer. Most are going to say, yes, you need to be EDI compliant. But also at the same time, retailers and distributors might have different thresholds of when they're going to require EDI. So some are going to say 100% of my suppliers that I purchase from need to be EDI compliant. It makes it easier for me to do business. It makes it easier for me to run my business operations. Whereas some other retailers or distributors might say, just based on PO volumes or different thresholds of that nature is when they're going to indicate when you need to be EDI compliant.
All right, great question. Another one from Jeremy. So EDI is a technical spec, like a set of standards and a protocol that the industry uses.
Yes, nailed it. Spot on. Go ahead, Zach.
Yep, spot on. It's a technical spec. A lot of jargon that we could get into that we don't need to, but it's, one thing I like to say is EDI is a standard, but I like to say EDI ID because everybody does it different. So there is a standard kind of format, but every retailer, grocer, distributor is going to have their own kind of special needs and requirements inside of those documents. Think what Morgan was talking about. How does their purchase order look? Are they asking for an acknowledgement, shipping information, invoicing, inventory, things like that? But yep, technical spec.
Love it.
All right. And I know there's another one, but this maybe will come up in a little bit. But Uma is asking, how much time does it take to implement? Because can I just wait until someone makes me do it, or should I have it before then?
Good
Yeah,
question.
it's a great question, and a little bit of a loaded question. But if you're truly just, hey, I need to get compliant with this retailer. Hey, I landed a retail partner. I got their vendor packet. There's 50 pages, and some of those pages are saying this thing about EDI. As I was kind of talking about that pre-built network, I mean, we onboard vendors and, a day or two a lot of times to get set up with a Target, a CVS, a Kroger, whoever that may be. So getting that compliance piece can be pretty quick.
All right. By the way, just because probably a lot of people are like already curious to chat with you guys, what is the best way for people to be in touch? Is it just going to spscommerce.com, or is there other ways that you think are best for our lovely community?
Yeah, we've got a page set up, so it's spscommerce.com / startup CPG.
Boom. I just put it in the chat for anyone who wants it. Because some of the questions I'm going to surface that are broadly applicable, if it's a really specific one, I would say maybe use that link and then ask them and have a little one-on-one chat. They'll be very happy to answer your questions. All right, let's keep going a little bit, and then I'll resurface some more questions because now the chat's heating up with all kinds of queries.
Sounds good. Well, maybe some of this will help to answer some of the questions that are coming in. So you're thinking, great, I kind of understand generally how EDI fits into workflows, how it impacts the supply chain, but really, what's in it for me? So I discussed being a good partner. That's obviously something that we all want to be. It helps us get on the shelf. It helps us stay on the shelf. But beyond that, it is really, we hear a lot of benefits from our customers. So we have over 40,000 suppliers or brands that leverage our solutions to help receive orders from their trading partners and send back any relevant information. And so it really helps them to have one consolidated location to receive all of their orders. So instead of going into a portal to review an order that you might have received, or going into your email, or looking over this PDF, that's all very time consuming for you to do. And it's not necessarily scalable. As you grow your business, you land more customers, you get more orders. So having one consolidated location to view all of this information really helps to speed up your order processing and gives you better supply chain visibility into being able to manage inventory levels, being able to make sure that you are effectively communicating where product is at along that entire order cycle. As I mentioned, it accelerates order processing. So theoretically, you are being able to send the relevant and necessary information to your trading partner. It is getting onto the shelf faster. It is selling through faster, allowing you to get into more doors or receive larger orders. And when you do get into these conversations with distributors, with retailers, it really helps to say, yes, I can do EDI. They're really looking for people that are easy to work with, as we've kind of emphasized before. And so being able to say, yep, I can do that, it helps to foster trust, to say, yep, I am invested in this relationship and making sure that we're able to work together. And ultimately, this is going to automate more of your processes. So you're going to get paid faster. No longer are you having to manually follow up on where is this order at? Why doesn't this invoice match what I actually shipped? And all of those nuances that you might have to manage. And we had a Smarty Pants in the chat already asking, when should we consider investing in EDI? And I would say don't invest in it until you have retailers requesting EDI to be compliant. It might look like you have retailers asking you to do EDI, which might be your trigger point to do it. It might also be that you've grown your business, you've scaled it, and now doing things manually is just no longer feasible. And so you need a more automated solution. And so those are kind of some of the key reasons why somebody might invest in an EDI solution. And typically what we see is that that first trading partner that we are setting you up with is going to be the most complex one, because we need to understand your business. There's different nuances that we need to account for when it comes to like, where are you shipping your product from, and making sure all of that data is flowing seamlessly between you and your distributor or retailer. But the good news is that after that first trading partner, it goes faster after that.
Awesome. So let's jump into kind of how do you select an EDI provider and where does SPS come into play? I do see a question here. Do you have to have an ERP in place to use SPS? The answer is no. So there's a standalone kind of web-based tool that'll get you fully EDI compliant. We have many customers who are leveraging Excel sheets, or they're just running out of their Shopify because they've been sending out or selling on their website. And as you move into maybe a QuickBooks or something like that, but no, you don't need an ERP to be able to leverage EDI. So let's play our two truths and a lie one more time here. So we'll see the chat fire up here again. Which one of these is a lie? Retailers require suppliers to exchange data like orders and invoices in a specific EDI format, not through a specific provider. As a supplier, you have the freedom to choose EDI solution that best fits your business needs, as long as it meets your partner requirements, or retailers can legally require you to use one specific EDI vendor for all your transactions. Give it a few minutes here as we start to get some answers in. Very smart group today, Daniel. You've built a nice following here of
So
a lot
proud.
of sharp people. Yes. So yes, the lie here is that retailers can legally require you to use one specific EDI vendor for all your transactions. That's not the case. So, think about something like payroll. You might have the expertise to do that in-house, but does it really create a competitive advantage for your business and the things you're focused on? So retailers give you the ability to use whatever EDI solution that best fits your business needs. The key is just you'll have to meet their standards and their requirements to be able to be in production and kind of meet their standards to be able to work with them. And if we think about what is it that a company like all of you out there, like what are you focused on? What should you be focused on? And what do you care about most? And, that's your brand, and building that brand and getting more eyeballs on your products and getting them out to the market, thinking about your supply chain and how you run that efficiently, acquiring more customers, keeping your customers happy today. Managing your operations, thinking about your cash flow. Like, these are all the things that are top of mind for you every day. And then you've got to kind of ask yourself, back to that payroll question, same thing with EDI, is, do I want to be an expert in this? Do I want to learn? Do you want to spend 20 years like me and Morgan learning all the jargon? Maybe not. Maybe that's not the right thing to focus on as a business. So if you think about the EDI options in the marketplace, and kind of what options are that are out there, there's kind of two things to consider. And a lot of the options in the marketplace are on this right side of the visual, which is what we might refer to as a managed service. And really, that's only giving you a piece of the puzzle to solve some of these problems. So you'll have some of that technology, it gets set up, and then maybe it's a ticketed support system. But a lot of this heavy lifting is put on you and your business to understand all that trading partner expertise. How do I communicate? I've got to test and get these into productions. How do I monitor this ongoing? And really, where SPS comes into the market is that we really are the only full service solution out there. And there's really these 7 critical capabilities to run a successful EDI solution. So you've got to have that technology, that's table stakes, but think of mapping kits and translation software and things you probably don't care about, but you need to have. But that trading partner expertise becomes really, really critical and important. And Morgan walked through, hey, all of these companies are going to have a different way they want to talk to you and connect with you, and they have different requirements. Things as simple as, the label on the top left or the bottom right. Nobody wants to get a chargebacks because they did everything right, but they put the label in the wrong spot. But then, you know, Morgan also talked about, think about your business and inside your four walls. You run things differently. You have your own systems, how you're leveraging your business. So how do you marry those two languages together becomes really important. And maybe you track things in case packs, but somebody's ordering in eaches. And how do you marry that up to make sure that you're fulfilling the right thing? Maybe you've heard of things like a van mailbox, AS2 software, an FTP or an API. These retailers, distributors, grocers, they all have a different connectivity. You know, if you're working with Walmart, they require AS2. And how do you know that? And the certificates you need. The testing process can be tedious and challenging. And do you want to be on the phone, you know, trying to navigate all these requirements to get that connection into production? Because really what you care about most is being able to get to a place where you can get that order. You've landed this retailer, and that's where you're going to start to get the value. You know, Target, for example, tests off the first live purchase order, and some will send a test purchase order. So just understanding those nuances. And as Morgan mentioned, you know, we do tens of thousands of changes every year from an EDI standpoint. So once you have that set up, you've got to be able to monitor it, analyze the data, what's going on, what's happening. Costco, for example, they rolled out an advanced ship notification requirement. That's a big change for a lot of their vendors that now have to send the shipping information. And then having those ongoing resources to be able to talk to optimize your solution, talk about that growth, because not only are the retailers and EDI changing, your business is changing and growing with it. So little overview there, but then we can get a little bit more into SPS and kind of where we play and kind of how we fulfill the needs of all of those 7 capabilities. So really simple here. I think a simple way to think about SPS Commerce and kind of how we are that full service option is that we are people, process, and technology. We have that market leading technology. We're always investing in that infrastructure to make it better and listening to our customers. Like, what do we need? You know, things since kind of the COVID era have changed significantly in what's happening. So much more to direct to consumer. So investing in that technology, but really even more important is the experts and the process behind it. You're working with people that do this all day, every day. They'll lead you through the process. They insulate you from all those requirements. They handle that testing for you. And it's not reinventing the wheel. We've done this before. So we're leveraging a process over and over again, because the point is to get your value quickly. That time to value becomes very important when we think about cash flow and meeting and getting an A with your retailers, because that's what's really important to you guys. And a visual I love, because, you know, Morgan gets all those complicated visuals with all these different webs coming out, and like it is kind of overwhelming where it's like, whoa, how am I going to learn all this? Like, I'm an expert in my business, but when you plug into the SPS Commerce network, it's a single point of connection that allows you to tap into that network. So now you don't have to learn the different requirements and jargon and nuances and codes and all those things. You have a one-stop shop that plugs you into that network. So you can confidently say, hey, I'm selling on my website off of Shopify today, but I'm in talks with KeHE to get myself into Whole Foods and Target and Costco, and kind of being able to be insulated from that and just run your business effectively. And the good news is setup is an easy process. Like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel. We know, you know, what we're doing here, and we've been doing it for a long time. So we have that initial conversation with you, kind of understand your business, prescribe that plan. Then we go in and we configure and activate that connection. We handle the validation and the testing of that connection, put you into production. And then super important, we don't go away. We're monitoring that, what changes are coming up, and also making recommendations of, hey, you might be able to optimize this, or hey, the shipping notification, you could automate these things. So super simple process. And then I think we're getting to the big question, the question that everybody wants to know, right? What does it cost? So I would think about it this way: when you're talking about an EDI solution, you know, there's going to be a one-time component and a subscription fee to have that solution. But from our standpoint, it is super simple to get set up. And, you know, if you land your first retail partner, you might be looking at a couple $100 to set it up, and then $199 a month to handle everything you need for that retail partner. So not a huge investment to be able to have that technology and that process you need to work with those retail partners.
Love it. So feel free to go into the chat and as you have questions, plop them in there. But we do have Natalie from Purely Elizabeth here. So figured that we could just chat with her about what her experience with EDI has been, someone who's been in your shoes and been there, done that. So welcome, Natalie. And why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your role and how long you've been with Purely Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you. I just learned a lot from that presentation, actually. But I've been with Purely Elizabeth for about 8 years. And if you're not familiar, we make a lot of really delicious granola, oatmeal, and cereal. I've had various roles here, primarily within like the operations team, and I'm currently managing our 3PLs. So I manage that relationship with the distribution from a systematic perspective and manage all the EDI onboarding.
Love it. So you already got into it a little bit. You mentioned 3PLs, but why don't we get a little bit of a lay of the land of how you guys operate your business? And so we can kind of better understand what EDI touch points there are throughout. So do you guys use a co-man? Do you produce in-house? Do you leverage a 3PL? What does that look like?
Yeah, so our footprint's pretty layered. We do work with multiple co-mans, and then we have a 3PL that we distribute from. We have a couple of logistics partners, so we have a lot going on there with the with the footprint.
Yeah, a lot of parties involved and to keep informed and running smoothly.
For sure.
So first question for you, if you think back, 8 years ago, SPS and Purely Elizabeth have been partners since then. Thinking back to your early days with EDI, what did that look like for you guys? Did you know what EDI was when you started with Purely Elizabeth, and how has it grown and evolved from there?
Yeah, I had no idea. Actually, when I started here, I was working in our warehouse packing orders by hand and just being handed like packing slips. And so once I moved in and started manually entering orders, figured all of that part out. But excuse me, for a while we were actually like receiving faxes for our orders and things like that. So it was important as we started working with 3PLs for distribution to be able to seamlessly like transmit the orders, the shipment details, like you had mentioned. So at that point, we really had to look for options for EDI.
Yeah. And what does EDI look like in your day-to-day operations these days?
I mean, it touches everything we do. And so from, producing the product, shipping the product to our distributor, to our 3PLs, receiving purchase orders, fulfilling those purchase orders, sending shipment details, invoicing the customer. All of our departments are involved in it now.
I love that and building on that. So when we think about how EDI touches all of these different groups and teams within your organization, thinking of like an emerging brand, it sometimes is overwhelming to think about taking on another thing. So, oh my gosh, I need to do EDI. Where does that live? Sometimes it's a one-person show. Sometimes there's a small but mighty team of people. In your experience, where have you seen EDI living as far as like a team ownership perspective?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm on the operations team. And so it has pretty much been a function within operations, customer service, because they are touching all the orders. I do think it's important to have an owner, more or less, within the organization that can kind of run point for EDI. Again, they don't need to be an expert in it, but they need to be a touch point for that. So I have also seen it in other companies, like with the sales team or maybe IT, in-house IT. But for us, it's made a lot of sense to have it like kind of on the operations supply chain side of things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Daniel, are there any questions in the chat that we want to get to? Otherwise, we can keep rolling with this.
There
Or
is
do you have any
there is a long question that I'm reading right now. It's maybe the longest question that I've seen in a chat. So, okay. The question is, what are the 3 performance metrics that you're most proud of? I'd love to know before considering a switch to SPS.
Yeah.
Zach, you want to take that?
Yeah, for sure. And, performance metrics, I might tweak it a little bit because I think the one thing about EDI is that if you don't hear about it, it's a good thing. And, we publish all of our uptimes and air reports. We're very proud of the fact that we know we're critical to these businesses, right? Purely Elizabeth can't run their business if EDI isn't flowing. So, 99.9% uptime is incredibly important to us. I think some of the things that I'm most proud of working here is that network. We talked about that network and what that gives our supplier community the option to plug into and connect to these different retail partners. And that full service approach. I mean, I've spent so many years working with companies where like we have this incredible product and we're super passionate about it. I don't know how to scale my business from, a couple trading partners to 50 and being able to do that quickly for them and get those stood up so they can capitalize on the growth and the momentum that they have. And I think our network is built in a way that is different than anything in the market. So it's reusable. So we're not building out point to point connections for Target and Walmart. We're reusing existing technology that's in place, which allows our customers to move very quickly. And then, I mentioned as your business grows, right? Today, maybe you don't have an ERP system or you're leveraging QuickBooks. Well, what does that mean when you get to Acumatica or NetSuite or something, Microsoft? It's like with SPS, you don't have to have a disruption to your business because of the way that network is built. You can continue to operate, but then you can grow and scale your business into additional systems and leverage 3PLs and really scale the business without saying, well, what happens if my orders don't show up? Like that's not going to happen. So I would say those are some of the things that we're most proud of here. And, I always tell our customers, it's like, look, I'm not trying to have a one-time engagement, right? The only way SPS is successful is if you guys are successful and your businesses continue to grow and scale, and we can support you for the long term. So that's kind of how I'd answer that question.
All right, perfect. I have a question for Natalie, just because it's so cool to get somebody from just a much bigger company than at the size that many brands aspire to get to. I'm just wondering, in your experience working with lots of different 3PLs, do you have any tips for brands out there about maybe choosing 3PLs or how to work with them effectively, how to get your costs down, just how to be really good at that as your orders start to scale that way?
That is a great question. Yeah, I mean, we do work with multiple 3PLs. I think finding a partner that excels in all areas, such as like wholesale, e-commerce, Amazon, all of that, it can be challenging. So to really understand what you're looking for, because I feel like I've done a lot of RFPs and like warehouses are very eager to say they could do it all. And so I really recommend getting references, understanding who they're currently serving, how they're able to grow with you, and what size of company are you for them? A lot of questions that we've learned to ask now.
That's a great response. That's super helpful. And I think that's a good one for brands to understand also. Like that warehouse that probably can ship pallets for you, like get trucks coming in, picking up huge amounts. It's probably not the same one that is going to be great at fulfilling individual orders that come from your website. So a lot of people would have separate people doing that at least.
And one huge learning I've had very recently is how important it is to have your warehouse team on site at the warehouse. I love working from home, but this would not be very useful if I was fulfilling orders. So it's so great to have somebody on the ground that can be right there with your product. So that's, I think, a huge consideration as well.
That your warehouse team is there, or the
the 3PL's team is on site. So we've worked with some 3PLs where the customer service team that we're interacting with are actually remote, and that creates a lot of disconnect, as you can imagine.
What a nightmare. I have had that situation and like all of our stuff was missing. And
Right.
I call and it's somebody not in the US and they're like, I'll submit a ticket. I'm like, I need you to walk down there and look and open it and tell me why instead of getting all my beverages, I got a bunch of books delivered.
Literally. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great answer. Okay. Beth asked a question that I'll drop up here. So basically, she came a little bit late. That's okay. Where she's wondering, just like, what's a snapshot of the user experience like? What does it feel like to use SPS? What's the interface like? That might be a good one for Natalie also, as well as
Yeah,
the
for
SPS team.
sure. So we have a QuickBooks system that we use, but for the fulfillment portion of it, there is like a web portal and it's very user friendly. What I love and what I've utilized a lot is the chat feature. So if you just have a quick question, it's super easy to get an answer from the team. Whoever they connect you with can look at notes, figure out, what you've worked on before, who you've worked with. So I feel like their team is just super responsive on any kind of troubleshooting that way. And then another thing I was going to kind of build on what Zach said is all these retailers are constantly changing what they require, like the Costco ASN, all of these things. And my sales team is just like forwarding me things they're getting, like, be sure we do this, be sure we do that. And it's pages and pages. So I'll send it to SPS and they're like, oh yeah, we already know, like we're on top of it. We know when the cutover is. So their support has been invaluable, just to make sure that we're like considering all of the requirements there. So yeah, the user experience has been a dream.
What's a kind of question that you might have commonly that you would chat their team about?
I mean, all sorts of stuff. A lot of it, like I said, our team is sharing out like requirements that the retailer needs, or our sales team is landing new business and they're like, hey, can we trade with this partner? And so maybe it's somebody I've never heard of before, but I can quickly get an answer from SPS. Or back to like the unit of measure conversions, item numbers. A lot of retailers like to make up their own item numbers for our item numbers. And so just so we're all like speaking the same language, I can quickly ask them those questions and I don't have to be the expert.
I love it. Thank you, Natalie. And Beth, I really like this question also, because that's how I think also, is like, okay, I get it, but like, what is this going to look like when I actually use this thing? Like, what's my world about? What am I going to see in my world? Zach or Morgan, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I would just say I saw you drop the link back in there. Like if anyone wants to get in there and have a demo, absolutely reach out. But I think a couple key things. It's very user friendly. Think of tiles at the top that are basically like, what are my open orders? What are my new orders? What needs to be acknowledged? What needs to be shipped? So it's gonna tell you exactly like what open work needs to happen. And I think, Natalie can probably attest to this. The person who handles the orders might not be the person who handles the shipping information, but it walks you through step by step so you're not missing anything. And then back to kind of that simplified, we want it to look and feel the same for every partner. So it's not like, whoa, I'm speaking a different language every time. So it's going to look and feel the same, even if the requirements are a little bit different. And I think a feature that our customers love the most is on the right side of this kind of like web page that you're on. It's the workflow. And that workflow takes you through step by step. What are the requirements of that retailer? Because some might only send you a purchase order and ask for an invoice. Some might want that acknowledgement or shipping notification. So it'll actually make sure that Target, Walmart, whatever's on there is required. It's a step by step process. So it takes you through that to say, hey, you got to complete this step before you move to the next step. And it had, think of any form you filled out online where it's got the red little star that says, hey, this is required, right? It's not going to let you miss that step because that's the required information.
And I'll just build on that, Zach. So that is our, like, you're just getting started. You need something to be EDI compliant, or maybe you don't even have a back-end system quite yet. But as you think about growing your business, scaling, it might not be feasible for you to continue leveraging our fulfillment portal. And so then we do have solutions that help integrate into your ERP, whatever system that you're using, so that you have a source of truth that your teams are working out of. But that's down the line for a lot of people, but I just want to emphasize that we do scale and grow as the business grows as well.
I love it. Okay. And yeah, just to remind everybody, I've put the link here for if you want to sign up for a demo. Even if you're not quite ready, it might be good to do the demo just to then, really like double check you really understand if all of a sudden, are you EDI compliant comes across your inbox, that you can just be like, yep. And then, because like you could do it within a couple of days or something. Trust me, that is a situation most people will find themselves in. Okay. And then I think we're getting to most of the questions here, but just the last two, I'd love just to let's circle back on them again, is Yeah, like Breland just asked, do you recommend waiting until you have a PO in place? So let's just confirm that one. And then again, if you can just talk about the pricing, like in as much specificity as you can. I know it'll be different for different brands, but like as you get started, because someone was like, wait, is it $199 every retailer? Or like, how does that work?
Yep. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So the one about waiting until a PO's in place, and Morgan touched a little bit on this, but I think you want to have that relationship with that retailer kind of solidified, right? And usually what happens is you're having those conversations, and then they kind of send you that vendor packet. And when you get that vendor packet, it has all this information. There's going to be a section about EDI in there. So if you're moving forward with a retailer and they're asking for that, that's a great time to engage and start to get that set up. You might not get your first purchase order for a month or two, but kind of that's probably the tipping point to say, hey, I'm being asked for this. I need to explore and get an option set up there. And then for the pricing, yeah. So the 199, kind of getting started with that first trading partner, kind of once you get past that it really comes down to think of two components. Who am I trading with? How many partners are out there that I'm going to be talking to? And then kind of what's the volume of order flow that's going to go through that? How many purchase orders am I going to receive? And kind of the documents I'm going to send back to. So it's an economies of scale model. So the more volume you move through, think of old cell phone minute plans when, the more you did, the cheaper the minutes became. But I would recommend, we can share pricing very quickly based on a quick conversation on your situation, what you're thinking about. Because as Morgan mentioned, maybe you need something automated with your QuickBooks or your system. Maybe you have a 3PL component that's going on. So there's different things that could come into there. So use that link, reach out, a quick 15, 20-minute conversation, and we could get you something, very accurate on your situation.
All right. Guys, I think we did it. I think we got to everything. We got to all the questions, got through all the slides. That's where we like to be. Give everyone a few minutes back. Just to close out here, can we just remind everyone best ways to follow up? Maybe I'll start with Natalie also. Is there a good way for people to follow along with you and or purely Elizabeth?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, obviously connect with me on LinkedIn. And then Purely Elizabeth, we're all over the place. So our IG, I think, is probably the best way to stay up to date with everything happening. Newsletter as well. But yeah, I'd love to connect with you guys.
Natalie, you're the best. Thank you thank you for coming on today. It's so interesting to be able to ask you some questions as well. We as a community are trying to go very deep on ops because it's really people like you who just have so much knowledge, and and ops stuff is also just it's such low hanging fruit for early stage brands to just don't do that. Yes, do this. And it's people know it all, people have all
Hit
you
me
have all
up.
the experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, thank you so much. Cool. Okay, and then I'll drop the SPS Commerce link for the last time in the chat. Schedule a demo. They're all as nice as Zach and Morgan, so you'll enjoy it. Anything to close out on, Zach, Morgan?
One nugget I'll just drop that's coming up quite a bit too is PDF orders. Getting these orders that are non-EDI orders that can be kind of tedious as well. We can pull those into different systems of record or accounting packages that you have too. So if you're in this spot where it's like, hey, I've got one EDI trading partner, but I'm getting all these PDF orders that are also kind of bogging down my time, we can help with that as well. So reach out to us and have a conversation, because there's definitely some time savings and error reduction that can happen there too. But just want to say thank you for everyone for joining today. A great conversation. Reach out, talk to us. We're happy to have conversations, even if it's not the right time, or you're more just curious, what does this mean as I continue to grow? So thank you. And Morgan, anything you'd add?
No, I think you nailed it. Thank you, everybody, for the time today. Hopefully we speak with you soon. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you. Natalie put her link, the LinkedIn in the chat here in case anybody wants to click on that and become LinkedIn friends. And thank you again, everybody. What a good time. We will see you all soon.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.